My name is Colby, and I'd like to welcome you to Colby's Creatives. This channel will be dedicated to oil painting in the wet-on-wet style of painting. We'll be doing landscapes, seascapes, and florals, and maybe even a portrait. Though I confess I've never done a portrait before in my life, so that's probably going to be a long way down the road. These first few videos will be dedicated to instructions, as well as educating you on the wet-on-wet technique. I've already uploaded a video on how we clean and condition our brushes. And now I'm going to introduce all of you to the equipment that we use. First up, the easel. This easel, hold on, I'm going to have to move the camera. This easel is very sturdy, very solid, very strong. The reason we use such a strong easel for this technique is because when we begin, we apply a liquid base on the canvas, and in order to apply it properly, we need to be very forceful and very rough with the canvas, and that's going to cause it to shake. And if you were to have something like a flimsy easel, like for example, I started out with a travel easel that was not very sturdy at all, and my canvas would keep falling over, tumbling over, and even during the painting process, so it would disrupt my flow. You want a very strong easel because you're going to be working you're going to be very tough with this canvas at points. Speaking of canvases, these are the kinds of canvases that we're going to be using. These are pre-stretched. You can get them anywhere at your local art store, Michael's, etc. And many artists you will hear talking about primed canvases. And what we use for priming our canvases, you can get canvases that are already primed, like double primed, triple primed, but you can also prime them yourself using this stuff. This is gesso. This is an acrylic-based paint, and this is what we use to prime our canvases, as I just mentioned. What we do is we take one of these little things. This is a foam brush applicator. We pour out some gesso onto a surface like a paper plate or a disposable bowl, like a paper bowl, and then we dip the brush into the gesso, and then we just cover the canvas. Put about double primed is 2 coats, triple primed is 3 coats, and so on and so forth. The most coats I've put on is 3. Yes. Before I move on, I should also mention that gesso comes in different colors. This right here is a black canvas. I have used black gesso to prime it. You can also mix gessos to make you can add different colors to your gessos by adding some acrylic paint to your gessos. So let's say you wanted to make a yellow gesso, you could add some yellow acrylic paint to a clear gesso or a white gesso, mix it in, and then you have a yellow gesso. Personally, what I do is I take some black gesso and I mix it with my white gesso to make a gray priming. And a gray primer, or well, a gray gesso covering is quite important, especially for those who are just starting out, because one step of this technique can really trip up a lot of people. This right here is liquid white, and liquid white is a medium, an oil-based medium, and we apply this to our canvas to make the surface wet, slippery, and that allows us to blend and move paint right on the canvas as we go along. If you did not have liquid white on there, you'd have a lot of trouble moving this paint around. I don't really have time to demonstrate right now, but the first demonstration that I do of a full painting, you'll see that. When I should mention about the liquid white and about any oil-based medium really. For this technique, you don't want to put too much, but you also don't want to put too little. And that is why we have these gray primers on these canvases here. These gray primers allow you to see where you have liquid white on the canvas. And so you can tell if you have too little. If you don't have enough liquid white on there, it's not going to slide properly. But if you have too much, the surface becomes way too thin. And why is that important? Well, that is important because these paints that we use need to be very thick. The wet on wet technique is, hold on, let me just grab another paint tube here. The wet on wet technique is dependent on a very thick and firm paint. What do I mean by thick and firm? Well, now I'm going to show you just what I mean by thick and firm. So, watch. I'm going to squeeze a bit of paint out of this tube. Watch this. Can you see that? Look at that. See how firm and thick that is? It's standing up like about, oh my goodness, this one is nice and firm. It's standing up about an inch over the tube as I squeeze it out. Oh no. I don't want to waste this paint, but look at how good that stands up. This is exactly what I mean when I say thick, firm paint. I can point you to a few brands of paint. This right here is Winsor & Newton. This is their Winton Oil line of colors. It's a student grade paint. And they also have an artist quality of oil paint. Oh, yes. Brands. So, like I said, that's the Winsor & Newton. Other brands. Bob Ross. Actually, I should mention the Bob Ross paints are made specifically for this technique. So if you're just starting out, I would highly recommend you get the Bob Ross brand above everything, over anything else. You should get the Bob Ross brand because they're designed specifically for this technique. But what is the difference? The paints from the Bob Ross company are thinned down to like their proper uses. So let's say highlight colors. Highlight colors like this one here, Indian Yellow. The Indian Yellow of the Bob Ross brand is slightly thinner than the Indian Yellow of this brand. This is Gamblin. And I also have one more brand here. This is Grumbacher. This is an artist grade paint. You know what? I'll actually talk about artist grade. Artist grade, the difference between artist and student grade is that artist grade, like this one here, are pigment, a lot of pigment, and oil. And student grade, like this here, or that Winsor and Newton, Winton, is this is a student grade. The student grades have a lot less pigment, still oil, but they also have filler in them. Filler can be anything like beeswax, some kind of wax. And the reason why you might want to get artist grade or artist grade over student grade is because artist grade, because they have more pigment in them, they can actually last you a lot longer. Now, let's talk about brushes. Brushes. Beautiful brushes. Okay, brushes. Brushes. Sorry. Now, you may be looking at this brush, and unless you recognize that it's a Bob Ross brand of brush, you may be thinking, well, this just looks like a house painting brush. I have this in my garage, or I have this in my shed somewhere. Believe me, these are not house painting brushes. These are artist quality brushes designed for this technique. Although I should mention, if you're on a very, very tight budget but you really want to paint, you could go to your hardware store and pick up like a chip brush. Now, they won't be as high quality as these. They're going to be destroyed a lot sooner than these, and you'll have to take care of them a lot more. You can get, of course, these Bob Ross brushes. The Bob Ross brushes actually are a lot more diverse in terms of brush shape. Look at this. There's this brush shape here. There's, of course, the 2-inch brush. There's a 1-inch brush. There's this other brush that's bigger. It's like this. It's pretty much the same as this one, but it's bigger. These two are... Yep. And there's also 1-inch brush version of this. Okay. Okay, that's brushes. Knives. Painting knives. I love these. Absolutely love them. You can do so many fantastic things with these. I have this one here. Again, a larger and a smaller one. Smaller ones you can use to get in smaller cracks like this. Can you see this? Not really. But like, if you want to make some like little tiny details with this knife, like you can scratch in some tree trunks, you can scratch in some sticks, you can scratch in some like cattails. Or you you can just block in some color, but you're but there's not the number 10 is too big. You can use this smaller knife. Sorry, I dropped these. Well, I didn't drop them, I put them down, but you can use this smaller knife to get into places that you couldn't get with the bigger knife. You don't have to necessarily buy the Bob Ross brand for this. There are, you can get a knife that's the same shape as this at your local art store, Michael's. You can get them online, or you can get them in store, whichever you prefer. Okay, now, cleaning your brushes, of course. Well, having brushes is all good and dandy, but if you don't clean them, they're gonna. Please clean your brushes. Please clean your brushes. We use paint thinner to clean our brushes. Specifically odorless thinner or odorless mineral spirits. Please, for the love of all that is holy, get odorless thinner. Funny story. First time I tried painting, I had all the wrong equipment, including the paints, the brushes, the thinner. Oh my goodness, the thinner. It wasn't, the worst part about it was having to do it, was being forced out of the house by my family because the thinner stunk so bad. Not to mention, hold on, before I put this down, I know I just put it down, but this right here, this specifically, is Gamsol. Gamsol is one of the purest and safest mineral spirits that you can find on the market. Now, granted, it's not completely safe. It is. There is no such thing as a non-toxic solvent. However, you can go solvent-free, or you can use water mixable oils. Winsor & Newton actually has a water mixable line of oils. I haven't tried them out myself, but I've heard that they do work. They do an okay job. What next? Yes. I should show you how we actually clean. I've shown you what we clean it with, but not how. Okay, see this little thing? This is my can that I have the thinner inside. So, let me just open this up for you. Okay, so I have that can, and inside of that can, I have this little bugger right here. You see? Can you see? I'm sorry, I don't know. There we go. You see that? You see that? That's a screen. This whole thing is a screen. And what that does, I wish I could show you this, but I'm one-handed pretty much, so I just have to. That goes into this can. I bought that at Michael's, by the way. Again, bought most of that at Michael's. You can make your own of these. You don't have to necessarily buy them. The Bob Ross company makes a screen, as well as they have a screen and a bucket package that you can use, that you can buy. And that actually, the screen that I had there, the screen that I had just showed you, the bucket is quite small, and it's kind of hard to fit the 2-inch brushes in there. It's hard to fit the larger brushes in there, but I manage with it. and I think it actually works better when it comes to like cleaning than the this. This is, I have this coffee can here, and I have the Bob Ross screen in there. You can't see it, but just trust me, bro. So yeah, what I do is I just take the brush. What I do is I scrub the bristles. I dip the, after painting and I'm ready to wash it off, I dip the brush into the can, swirl it around, scrubbing the bristles of the brush against that screen. And then over here, off camera, I have a waste bucket. I shake off most of the thinner that's still in there with this kind of a motion. And then in the bottom of that container, I have a little rack, a brush beater rack. Again, you can get one of those from the Ross company. You could also, now this would get thinner everywhere, but you could also do exactly what Bob Ross does and just beat your brush against the leg of your easel. But of course that would get paint thinner everywhere, and unless you plan on changing the entire decor of your room or your studio, then don't do that. Alexander also, Bill Alexander, also used to have like had a little rattle box, and inside that rattle box he had a 2x4, and he did the same thing with he did basically the same thing inside of that rattle box. Beat the brush against that 2x4, and the rattle box contains all the mess. Okay, on to palettes. Palette is very important, of course. For two things about the palette are very important. One, how you organize your paints on the palette. Two, the size of the palette. You want a palette that's very large so you have a lot of working room. Because if you have something that's super small, you are going to get so frustrated with trying to work with such little working room. Like, you're going to have to constantly clean up the palette and constantly, like, oh, there's no room, I gotta scrape off, and then, oh, no more room here again, and then scrape off. Just get a large palette. And if you don't want to buy a palette, you don't necessarily have to buy a palette. You can use a lot of stuff for palettes. Like, if you have some like wax paper lying around, or if you have like just a plastic sheet, like a flimsy plastic sheet lying around, you can also use that. The other thing that's very important, other than size, is how you organize your palette. When putting the paints on your palette, what you want to do is you want to find a spot that you just find a way to organize it. Some artists do from light to dark, and keeping certain color families on the same general spot, while others do have their palettes organized from cold to warm, and others do both cold to warm and light to dark. So they have like a cold yellow, a warm yellow, a warm yellow, or a cold red and a warm red, and then blah 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 blah, going all the way until they've gotten all their colors down. Speaking of which, another thing that helps with color organization and with color mixing as well is one of these little things. This is a color wheel that you can pick up at an art store for very, very low price. But yeah, they're very cheap, and I would highly recommend these if you're just starting out and you don't really know what colors mix well to make a color that you're looking for. I will have more videos coming up this week, hopefully before the weekend, but because it's supposed to rain by like Sunday. Okay, so that's all about the equipment. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, consider subscribing for more. There's so much to come. I cannot wait to share with all of you the joy of painting. Oh my gosh, he said the line. He said the line. So yeah, that's all from me. Thank you for watching. God bless.